Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now, let's have a look at some stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker, joined by Bloomberg's equities reporter Joe Easton. Good morning, Joe. Let's start with President Trump's 50% tariff on Brazil. Are there European stocks exposed to this? If so, where are they?
Yeah, there are quite a few. So particularly over in Spain. So some of these are weaker today. So Banco Santander is down 1.8% this morning. A pretty decent underperformance on that one. MAPFRE as well, the big insurer over in Spain. Telefonica kind of underperforming, but gone back to unchanged at the moment. But those companies all get around a fifth of their sales in Brazil. So it's a massive market for them, really. So given Trump is putting this levy on goods made in Brazil sold in to the US, we then saw that drop down in the currency. So the Brazilian real down nearly 3% overnight at the lows, and that means any money that you make in Brazil and then translate it back into your home country, so back into euros, is going to be worth less, and therefore we're seeing feed through into Banco Santander, into MAPFRE. It's also companies like Carrefour over in France, the grocer,
yes,
and AB InBev, the beer maker, of course, but they have got exposure around the world, really. So although they do have Brazilian operations, not seeing huge movement in those.
Okay, interesting. Well, on the currency front, though, I think it's worth adding that Bloomberg Intelligence says that actually, because of the tariff on Brazil, that could play into the hands of people who are bearish on the dollar for the second half of the year. Why? Because it means that it's not just about economics, it's also about politics, because the Brazilian levy seems to be more sort of politically driven maybe than just about trade between the two countries. Having said that, there's also been quite a bit of interesting news out of China, and maybe that has something to do with the eclectic rally that we're seeing in stock gains today.
Yeah, exactly. So there's news out of China. So a lot of China news flow coming through. The main piece is that there's speculation of more stimulus coming from Beijing, which is really a big driver. So speculation of a high-level meeting that will be held next week by Beijing lawmakers. And we saw, just before the European Open, we saw a massive rally in Chinese property stocks. And that has now fed through in terms of the stimulus into companies exposed to China in Europe. So miners having an absolutely fantastic day after that slump that we saw yesterday. Anglo-American up around 4%, Rio, Glencore all up similar amounts, but we're also seeing gains coming through into luxury. So LVMH is higher today. Drink stocks, Remy, Cointreau, Diageo, companies like that, they're all feeding through. It's all about whether China unleashes more stimulus. And we also had some marginally better construction data out of China, which is an indicator of a better economy and therefore a more booming Chinese consumer, and European companies stand to benefit from that.
And chocolate is getting hot.
Yes, we get to the one that I was looking forward to,
yeah,
to the sweet, the chocolate mover of the day is Barry Callebaut. Now, it's kind of not a name that I don't think is a household recognisable
they make loads
brand, but they
Barry
make
Callebaut,
yeah, they're kind of in the background making more. My understanding is more of the brands when other brands want to make their own chocolates, they use the chocolate from Barry Callebaut, but Barry Callebaut saying that essentially Americans are eating less chocolate at the moment, and therefore they're seeing a softening in demand over in the US. That stock falling 11%. It's been an interesting sector because there was very bad weather over in the Ivory Coast last year and early part of this year, which meant that the price of cocoa surged, and that actually hit their margins. Now they're saying it's kind of a double hit because demand is dropping. People aren't eating enough chocolate. I think we all need to get back on it and get our daily chocolate in, because Barry Callebaut struggling is down 12% this morning over in Swiss trading.
Well, I've started to hear the phrase snacking chocolate.
Okay,
which I'd never heard of.
I can get on board with that. Snacking chocolate. Not good for the calorie count, though.
No.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.